welcome to The Married Therapist,
a relationship podcast
hosted by us, Luis and Amber Simide.
This podcast is all about love, conflict, and the gray areas.
If you like what you hear, be sure to like and subscribe wherever you're listening. Now let's get to the show. If you're reading your partner's texts, it's toxic. You need to stop.
Immediately
stop. Welcome back. Today we're going to do some hot takes. This is our season finale, so we will be taking a little break after this episode. So we wanted to drop something hot for you guys. So we're going to go through some hot takes that we hear all the time and just give our opinions on those. So first one, right off the bat, what are your thoughts on long distance marriages? Would you do one? And what is your thought on them in general?
Depends.
Okay.
How long are we talking? If it's a couple of months for school or work or some kind of thing like that, family member, death, yeah, absolutely. We can visit each other in between or just have FaceTime dates. On the other hand, if it was for an extended period of time, that's not something that I would want to do. But could it work for other people? Possibly. It just really depends on the details.
Yeah. So do you have a time limit that you would be okay with? So you said temporary would be fine if you visited every once in a while, but what would be the time limit? Like if it was like a year contract, I have a job in another city for a year, would that be too long or?
Well, practically that wouldn't work for us
Right.
because I do work virtually, and as long as my clients are in Texas, I could be anywhere.
Right.
But hypothetically, I would say 6 months.
Okay. Makes sense. I know it can work for some people. I know Dr. Pepper in Married at First Sight, she and her husband live in different cities, like 40 minutes away or something, but it works for them and they have an arrangement and all of that, but that just wouldn't be what I would want, but it is possible. Next question. Do you think porn is healthy for a marriage or do you think it would be harmful for a marriage?
I think it depends on, I feel like that's going to be how I answer most of these
Yeah.
because a lot of things are very nuanced.
Yeah.
If you're watching it all the time and that's the only thing that allows you to experience that sexual intimacy, then probably is going to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's kind of here or there to spice it up, which is what a lot of people do, then not necessarily. But
Yeah.
it can just get really tricky because obviously these are professionals who go to studios using certain angles
Mm-hmm.
and lighting. There's zero hair. It's not
Yeah.
realistic. It's fantasy. And so if you are, especially as a woman, oftentimes comparing yourself to what you're seeing, guys do it too. That can be really difficult because we are not ever going to, most of us are not ever going to look like them.
Yeah.
And that can cause a lot of insecurities.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, that's not something I would do. And in our marriage, we haven't done that.
Mm-hmm.
But with a lot of things, it just really depends on all the details.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've heard of couples that do this in their intimate time. They put on some porn just to spice things up, like you said. But I would agree. I think it depends on how often you are using it, and if your sex life depends on that. I think that's a problem, but can work. It's nothing that we've done, and I don't think it's something that we would ever really do because it's just not something that we're interested in. But could it work? Sure. To say that it is inherently unhealthy for a couple, I would disagree with that. It can work, it can be healthy in small doses, just not a permanent tool that people would need for their sex life.
And I want to add that I know sometimes people do it to get ideas
Right.
of role playing or different positions, things like that. So I can certainly see why that would be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But it can be a slippery slope. So people just got to be careful.
Yeah, for sure. So this next question is one I know is controversial for a lot of people, but do you think couples should have each other's passwords to their phones? And I can go to answer this one first. I think couples should have each other's passwords, not because there is a lack of trust, but because you may need to get in your partner's phone for whatever reason if you need to find something. So I know for us, we have the rain sounds playing, and I play them from my phone typically when we're sleeping. But when I leave and I switch it to your phone, I would hate to have to wake you up so you can unlock your phone so I can switch it to your phone. And that's just a lot. So I think just for convenience sake and really for safety for a lot of things too, if there's ever a reason that your spouse is unconscious and you need to get into their phone for something, you need to have their password. So I think It's important to have the password, but it's not a situation where you get it just so you can snoop in someone's phone. That's unhealthy, and that's a whole different topic, but yeah, I think you should have your password.
The first thing that popped into my head was needing that foundation of safety.
Right.
If you cannot trust your partner fully, I wouldn't give them my password
Mm.
because you can be doing everything right, but be with a partner who's very insecure, jealous, has tons of issues with power and control, and will snoop into your phone and try to find something. And I have personal experience with this.
Yeah.
So when I was previously married, that's what happened to me. He got into my email when I wasn't looking and then later confronted me about it through a hypothetical situation, which was, "What do you think about having emails from an ex?" Or "Do you have emails from an ex?" And I said, "No." And then he said, "Well, I found these emails from your ex." And I was like, "Wait, what?" Turns out it was emails from 4 years ago that was still in my sent folder that I totally forgot that I had.
Yeah.
4 years ago, I was in another relationship, and we emailed a lot because we worked together, and at the time, we couldn't be on our phones texting, so
Mm.
our texting was emails, and it literally was some logistical things of, "Hey, when are you going on your lunch?" or "When are you going on your break?" And other times, it was
Oh my gosh.
cutesy type thing, so we, quote, unquote, "celebrated" our monthly anniversary. All it was an acknowledgement,
Yeah.
and then my ex confronted me and said, "1, you lied because you do have these emails. 2, we've never celebrated our month anniversary." I felt so bad, 1, because according to him, I lied, but I did not lie because I completely forgot that I had the
Yeah,
email.
they were 4 years prior.
2, of course I would have that, but in his mind, there needed to be a complete separation when you're no longer with someone, so blocking them on the phone, unfriending them on social media, which I did, but another way to do that in his mind was deleting all the emails, but I never thought once in my brain to delete emails like that.
Yeah.
I just felt so weird about that, and I remember telling him, "Do not do that. Like, you cannot do that."
Yeah.
You cannot just break into my email. I remember feeling so violated.
Mhm.
So, that's why that popped into my brain of it really just depends. There is gonna be something probably that someone's gonna find in your phone, even if you are not doing anything bad,
Mhm.
even if
Mm.
it's like, "Why did you order this thing from Amazon and I didn't know about it?" So I would tell the person, just kind of gauge how things are. If
Yeah.
there is that solid foundation of trust, then yeah, I would do that.
Yeah. So I guess the goal would be to get to a place where both of you guys can have each other's password because I think that is the healthiest place. But to your point, some people just aren't there, and having it would create more problems than not having it.
Right.
Got it. So this one might be controversial, but maybe not for some people. Do you think it is okay to be friends with your ex? So I can answer that. I think for this one, in most cases, it's probably not a good idea to be friends with your ex. But I can see some situations where it's okay, especially if there's kids involved, right? So if you have kids, you get divorced, you get into a new relationship, yeah, you're going to have interactions with your previous wife or husband. So being friends with them would be in the best interest of your kids, really, in that situation. But if you were just dating and you didn't have any kids or any long history or anything like that, I don't think being friends is gonna be beneficial in the long run. So, I would say in a nutshell, not okay unless there are kids involved.
I think we gotta define friends.
Yeah, that's true too.
Are we being friends? Are we being friendly?
Mhm.
We talked about this in a previous episode, but I always break it down to frequency and depth.
Yeah,
How often are we speaking and how deep are we going? I know for me, like my ex, not the one that I was married to,
right.
but the one before that, his mom died and I was I was feeling a certain kind of way when that happened
Mhm.
because of the time that I experienced with her. And so I remember telling you,
Yeah,
"Hey, I want to just reach out, express condolences." And you were like, "Yeah, of course." And I did. And he appreciated it. And that was it.
right.
But am I talking to him all the time? No.
Right.
There really is no need. that was another thing we talked about because I did do a happy birthday text to him
Yeah.
a couple months into you and I dating,
Mhm.
and we worked through that, and that's something that I no longer do. But yeah, we gotta just really evaluate the purpose of it and put ourselves in our partner's shoes and figure out, would I be cool with that?
Right. Yeah, for sure. So this question, I think I know the answer to this that you would give, but I'll ask it anyway. Do you think the guy should always propose in a relationship, or do you think it's okay for the woman to propose?
That's a social construct.
Yeah.
Whoever wants to propose should be the one proposing.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. Now, I do think it could be a conversation that happens before you get to that point. If you guys are on the same page, I think you even asked that one time. You were like, "Hey, what are your thoughts on the woman proposing?" Not because you wanted to propose, but because you just wanted to know my thoughts on that, and asked if it was like important for me to propose. And for me, I wanted to be the one to propose, so you allowed me to do that. But I'm sure if this would not have happened, because I know you wanted to be proposed to, but in some alternate reality, if you were okay with proposing and you asked me, would I do I really want to propose? If I was like, I'm not really keen on that necessarily, I totally would have let you propose. But it was something that was important to me and something important to you, so it just worked out. But yeah, I don't think it's set in stone. It should always be the guy. It can be whoever wants to propose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially because not everybody is in a heterosexual relationship.
Well, yeah, for sure.
Queer people do it all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, when we are talking about heterosexual relationships, very often it is the man. But I think we gotta wonder why, and we can choose to subscribe to that or we can choose not to subscribe to that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, if we as women are okay with doing it, the greater society is probably going to side eye us. So we have to be prepared for that.
Mhm.
But people have opinions about everything. We cannot
Yeah.
live for other people. We have to do what's right for us.
Yeah, like, I know in Love Is Blind, there have been a few women who have proposed to the guy, and it was totally okay, like, it wasn't even a big deal, and I think that should be more normalized in society in general, but, we'll get there one day, maybe, maybe not, I don't know.
But yeah, that's something that I wanted, but everybody has to just examine themselves and
Mhm.
figure out what would make the most sense.
Yeah, and not assume that your partner knows that that's what you want, right? This is an interesting question that I came upon. Is hall pass culture damaging to relationships, or is it just fun banter? And for those who don't know what hall pass culture is, a hall pass is essentially a free pass to sleep with someone if you were to cheat on your spouse, typically like a celebrity, right? But I've heard of some people being like, my hall pass is your best friend Keisha or something. It's like, oh, that's I feel like that's a problem. But in general, what are your thoughts on hall pass culture?
I think if it's a celebrity, that's fine. It could be cute and funny just to see your partner's type. That's most likely never going to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think when it's a little closer to home, that can be kind of problematic because that can just be a seed planted in the back of your brain.
Hmm.
Okay, let me keep one eye open just in case. Or maybe we go to a party and you're a little extra flirtatious with Keisha.
Yeah.
Well, she is his hall pass. So maybe if the drinks are flowing, something's going to happen. So I think if you want to do that, maybe stick
Yeah.
with someone who's outside of your sphere. But yeah, if it's like Kaylani or something like that,
Yeah.
that's fine for me.
Yeah.
Again, you really have to just sit back and figure out who your partner is.
Yeah.
If your partner has wandering eyes, if they've cheated before, if they are like Clay from Love Is
Oh
Blind,
my
where they
gosh.
treat infidelity like a disease, something they're inevitably going to catch.
He inherited it from his dad.
Yeah, then maybe that's not a fun little thing you guys should be joking about.
Yeah, I do wonder though if your hall pass is someone who looks wildly different than your spouse or your partner, if that would hurt the ego of that spouse or partner. So for you, if you were to say your hall pass was Idris Elba, I'm like, I do not look like a handsome black man. So that might make me feel some type of way. I mean, it wouldn't for me, but I think some people it would, right? If for you, if I said my hall pass was Sabrina Carpenter, it's like, why are you married to me then? Right? That would be different. But I do think in general it is harmless if it's a celebrity, but if it's someone in your real life, that's a little trickier because you actually see that person. But
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember we all have eyeballs,
right.
your partner included and yourself. We are gonna find other people attractive.
Hmm.
I know, especially as women, a lot of times, like, "You should only have eyes for me." Of course, but to say that your partner is not gonna go out of this house and find the other people attractive, a waitress,
Yeah.
a coworker, the person pumping gas next to them, I think that's simply unrealistic.
Yeah, and to be clear, finding someone attractive does not mean you have to flirt with them
Yes.
and go further. I think some people make those synonymous, and it's not. You can say someone's attractive and not interact with them. That's a possibility, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. There's something called, self-control.
Yes.
You can notice the waitress is attractive, but that's very different than staring her down, very different than going out of your way to flirt with her
Yeah.
and get her Instagram,
Yeah.
all of those things. No, not okay.
Yeah, there's definitely a line there. The next thing I wanted to ask, what are your thoughts on merging friend groups? Do you think when couples get married, they should merge their friend groups? Or do you think it's better to have their separate friend groups and just do things with their friends every once in a while?
I don't think we should force anything.
Yeah.
I like the idea of sometimes hanging out with your friends, but sometimes not.
Yeah.
You doing your own thing with your friends and vice versa. I know a lot of times that does happen when there isn't a foundation of trust.
Right.
Let me be around your friends. I need to know exactly who you're hanging out with. I need to have eyes on them.
Especially if you have mixed gendered friends.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
So for us, we don't have that issue. But yeah, I think if someone else does, you just have to evaluate what is this? Why do I feel the need to
Hmm.
feel like every single encounter needs to be a mixed kind of situation?
Yeah. Now, I do think I wouldn't even say it's important, but it is helpful if you at least get along with your partner's friends because there may be interactions that you have with them. But if you absolutely hate your partner's friends, that can become a problem in the future. Right. But luckily, it's not an issue with us. You don't hate any of my friends. I don't hate any of your friends at all. So, yeah, I think it is okay to have separate friend groups because it's healthy to have separate things to do sometimes, right? And if you are always, again, if you're always interacting with each other, always with each other, that can create some codependency. But to your point, it definitely requires that foundation of trust in the marriage.
Yeah, so I think for big events like a birthday party, baby shower,
Hmm.
graduation, something like that, yeah, everybody can come together. But outside of those type of events, no, we definitely can keep things separate.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of coordination, first of all.
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes you just want to have a very specific vibe that
Hmm.
doesn't make sense for a larger group or certain personalities.
Yeah. No, 100%. This next question is something that know we have a lot of experience in being around at least, but is marrying young a mistake, or is it just a different path for people? I know just coming from Christian cultures, they tend to get married pretty young. A lot of times there's that ring by spring in college where people are getting married in college and all that. Do I think it's a mistake? I I think it's hard to say. Biologically, we're not fully developed at that age until we're 25 or so. But does that make a marriage doomed? No, it doesn't. There are plenty of people who get married young and are thriving. On the same token, there are many people who get married young and they inevitably change throughout those early 20s, mid 20s, and that change really is too much for them to handle. So it depends on the couple. So I wouldn't say it is inherently a mistake. That's a very black and white way of thinking. Can it be a mistake for some people? Yeah, for sure. But I would side with the second part of that question. It's just a different path for some people.
There's so many factors that are at play here. Personality, career aspiration, cultural component. If everything is in alignment, that sounds like a pretty solid foundation.
Yeah,
So cool, let's just see. But I think if those core components aren't in alignment, it may not be the strongest marriage.
right. Yeah. Yeah, there definitely have to be some things that are solid before you get married, but sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. I think that's just the nature of marriage in general.
Yeah.
So, the age, I don't think is as much of a factor as some people make it out to be.
Yeah. But you have to ask yourself, am I being pressured into this
Mhm,
by my family, by the greater society? Am I doing this out of fear?
mhm,
Am I just trying to be rebellious?
right.
But if none of those things are happening and you ask yourself, okay, well, I love this person, but beyond that, I can financially support myself. I have this great job, or I'm in school, but this is the plan. Cool. We can go ahead and go forward. Now, you may struggle
Yeah,
because you are in school, or because maybe you have this entry level job that doesn't pay the best. But if both
mhm,
of you guys are down, okay, maybe we got to really budget and share a car, or maybe not have the latest
mhm.
phone. I think where there's a will, there's a way, but both people have to be in alignment
Yeah.
in order for it to be successful.
Yeah, for sure. When you're young and you get married, you just have to manage expectations to know what the next few months, few years are gonna look like. If it is gonna be a struggle, just know that ahead of time. But if it's not gonna be a struggle, cool. It'll be great. But there's gonna be struggles, obviously, but, just have to know what you're getting into.
Especially if kids get
Yeah,
introduced
yeah, that's a whole
pretty
different layer.
quickly. Yes. So, just lots of evaluation has to happen.
This next topic is on the topic of vacations. Do you think, as a married couple, you should take all vacations together, or do you think there is room for taking vacations separately?
Absolutely, you can take vacation separately, whether that's a solo trip, or if that's with siblings, or if that's with friends.
Mhm.
Everything does not have to be together.
Yeah.
I know since we've been married, I've taken a trip with my twin sister.
Mhm.
Again, we do have that solid foundation of trust, and so it was not a big deal. Of course, we miss each other while that's
Yeah.
happening, but it's not this big issue
Yeah.
that maybe other people would have because they don't trust one another. So, I would just talk to your partner and see kind of how that lands. I think if you're doing it all the time, maybe that can be an issue, but I think
Yeah.
if it's just here or there, go for it. Why not?
Yeah, like, if you never take vacations together, but are always taking vacations separately, that might be an issue,
Yeah.
potentially, but maybe it could work for some people. I don't know. Wouldn't work for us, but I think maybe for some people it could. But yeah, I think if the majority of them are together, but every once in a while you go separate, that's totally within the realm of what is a healthy relationship.
Yeah, I am so down for you, and I've mentioned it a couple
Yeah.
times with you taking a guy's trip. Like,
Mhm.
absolutely. Have a great time.
Yeah.
Explore.
Yeah, and I think people get up in arms about that because they interpret what that means, right? It's like if you go on a trip by yourself, that means you don't want to be on a trip with me. It's like, no, it's not that I don't want to be on a trip with you. It's that I want to go on a trip with these guys, or I want to go on a trip with my girls, or my sister wants to go on a trip with me, and I want to do that. So it's just a matter of what you want to do, and that's okay. Like you can have a desire to do that, and it's not an unhealthy desire.
Yeah. I know for a lot of people, this is an issue, especially when it comes to bachelor trips and bachelorette trips.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, as men, y'all tend to be wilding out, especially if you go to Vegas or a place like that
Yeah.
where the drinks are flowing and the nightlife scene is out of control.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's strip clubs or topless bars and stuff like that, and there's just a lot of inappropriate, disrespectful behavior,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so oftentimes women don't like that because they simply cannot trust that their partner is going to be faithful.
Which is really sad. I've always thought that was wild that these bachelor trips was like, "Oh, it's your last night being single." It's like, you're not single, you have a whole fiance you're about to marry. You're not single at all. So, I think a lot of people treat it that way. It's like your last hurrah to go. I'm like, your last night to do what? Like, you should be able to do those things when you're married. And if you're doing things that you shouldn't be doing when you're married, you shouldn't be doing when you're engaged either. But that's just me.
It's like the free pass.
Yeah, it's like a free hall pass to do whatever you want. And I'm just like, I would never do that.
So the guys think that. The women attached to it, whether it's the fiance or just the other women who are
Mhm.
with those guys, do not subscribe to that.
Yeah.
I've never heard of a case where one was like, "Okay, well, that's fine because it was a." I'm sure it happens. I just have
Yeah,
never heard of a woman being okay with it, especially if they get definitive proof.
right.
You were at a tapas bar or you were on stage with this stripper and you gave her so much money and there's all this the pictures and
Making out with a stranger. It's like, "What?
yeah.
You're
So
engaged to me."
as a society, we all say that we're cool with it, mainly the men, but it really never works out.
Yeah, it really doesn't.
And why is that the only way to celebrate
Right.
a guy that's about to be married? Why is that typically the standard for bachelor trips?
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole different conversation on cultural norms, I think, but I think it is problematic to think of it in those terms, like, this is your last night as a single man because 'cause you're not single. You're in a committed relationship in that at that time.
And for yours, you guys had dinner and then you went to Topgolf.
Yeah, like, it was totally chill, like, which is totally my vibe, like, I'm not one to go to Vegas and go all out and go to the club, like, that's just not who I am as a person, so my best man knew that about me, and planned this really low-key night for us, and it was great.
Very wholesome.
Very very wholesome.
I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah. This next question I thought was wild when I saw it, but the question is, do you owe your partner full honesty when it comes to your past? For me, the fact that this was even a question is insane to me because I think pretty definitively, yes, you do owe them full honesty, full transparency about your past. Because one, why would you not? What are you hiding? And what good is it to hide those things? I can maybe see it for some people where, well, if they knew this about me, then they would be upset or they would feel some type of way. But it's like at that point, there are other issues that are happening. I think there doesn't seem to be a foundation of trust there. If talking about how you cheated on someone when you were 17 and now you're 30 and now they feel some type of way about it, that might be a problem, right? Especially if you've done the work. We've talked about this in a previous episode. Once a cheater, always a cheater. Especially if you've done the work and haven't cheated on anyone since. If the fact that you did it 15, 16 years ago once throws your partner off to the point where she's not wanting to be with you, that might be an issue. But beyond extreme situations like that, yeah, I think it's definitely necessary for couples to be open and transparent about their past because it's going to come out. So,
Yeah, but I know a lot of people do subscribe to that. They
mhm.
give their partner very little details. I dated this person for this long. It didn't work out. Now I'm with you.
Right.
I've heard that so many times through different shows and even people in real life. And I always thought that was very interesting. I'm a yapper. And so for
Yeah.
me, I tell you so much, probably way more than you would even like to know. That's just kind of how I've always been.
Mhm.
I think it really just boils down to what information we're withholding.
Right.
If it is a cheating kind of situation, or even like a STD,
Oh my
or
gosh.
like
Yeah.
doing drugs,
Yeah.
or even some criminal stuff, I could see why someone maybe would not want to share that, but that can come back to bite you.
Mhm.
If you and your ex were into drugs and you did a little stint in the county jail, I wouldn't want to know that.
Yeah, for sure.
Even if it all worked out, it wasn't a big deal, you guys never did it again, that's important information.
Yeah, because it would suck for you to find that out some other way, like, if you had a parking ticket, it's like, "Oh, is there any" I mean, this wouldn't be a scenario, but, like, if you were ever asked for any reason, "Does your husband have any criminal history?" You would say no because you genuinely think that, but then they'd be like, "Oh, no, he was arrested and in jail 10 years ago." You're like, "What? How did I not know that?" Right? So it's gonna come out one way or the other, but yeah,
Yeah, but on the other hand, I do understand why people would withhold certain things because they're not sure how the current partner is gonna handle it.
right,
Maybe at a certain point in time, you were thinking about moving overseas with your ex, almost did it, but for certain reasons didn't, and we're happy with that decision. Let's say, I don't know, your current partner wants to do the same thing, but you don't want to because life is different now. Maybe it would be great that they didn't know that because they could use that against you.
yeah,
So I think, I mean, with so many of these answers, it's just so complex. It's very nuanced.
yeah,
I think you just have to figure out what is safe, what's okay for me to communicate to my partner, and what's not. I don't think every single aspect of your relationships has to be communicated.
right.
You can have some level of privacy, but yeah, what are we talking about? Are we talking about major things that could impact your current situation?
Yeah. Now, but to go back to your point of, like, you were willing to move at one point, but now you're not. I think even with that, you could find that out still, like, through a sibling or something, like, "Hey, weren't you gonna go this other place?" Like, "I thought you were never gonna go," right? So I think you can communicate that, but just also communicate your rationale for why it's different now, right? Because if it was different, you at least have a rationale for why it's different now. So I think communicating that would be beneficial, right? And again, it would take that trust that your partner trusts that you were not just lying to them and blowing smoke up their butt to know that you're like, "Okay, that makes sense with what I know about you."
I'm going to disagree. I think that in this hypothetical situation, that would be okay to not communicate. Let's say you were down to move overseas when you were 19, and
Mhm.
then you're with your current partner when you're 33.
Right.
You are a completely different person.
Mhm.
At that time, you were still in college, you weren't quite sure what your post-college plans would be, you were
Mm.
dating someone who wanted to do that, and that kinda made sense. That's okay.
Right.
So, I don't think you necessarily have to tell your current partner that that's where you once were, because let's say your current partner is so gung ho, it's their lifelong dream. I think you could be like, "No, I actually don't have a desire to do that because of X, Y, and Z," and be firm in that.
Mhm.
If they knew at one point you were feeling that, I think that can really mess with them. Could they find that out from someone else? Yeah, of course, but I don't think you owe them that information
Mm.
knowing that it could mess with them. "Oh, so you were down to move with so and so, but you're not down to do it with me?" That can cause a
Yeah.
lot of issues. So, again, this is a hypothetical situation,
Right.
and I'm trying to think, "Hold on, wait, am I speaking from personal experience?" I right now, as a 37-year-old, do not ever wanna move from San
Mhm.
Antonio, and I have been this way for a long time. Could I have seen myself doing a stint somewhere short term? Yes,
Mhm.
back in the day. So, I know when I was in college, I did have a couple people that I knew teach in Korea for a
Oh,
year
yeah.
kind of thing.
Mhm.
So, I think I could have been down to do something like that, but again, it's just a very different season.
Yeah.
But even just yesterday when we were at Schlitterbahn, we were talking about, like, would I ever move in the future? And I said no. So, yeah, for me to have once been a 19-year-old who wanted to do that, that could be really difficult for you to hear.
Yeah, well, if you were to tell me, like, "Yeah, when I was 19, I didn't wanna do that, but now I'm older and I'm more settled, I would wanna stay here," that would make sense to me. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, no, that makes sense." And that it wouldn't cause any more issue, like, for me anyway. But again, I know not everyone is that way, and everyone would be like, "Well, you were okay with it before. Why aren't you okay with it now?" And even with the rationale explained that, "Well, I was younger and I just had more freedom, but now that I have a lot more ties to here, I just feel more comfortable staying here now." Again, for me and probably for you too, that would make sense. It's like, "Okay, yeah, that makes sense now. I get it, why you don't wanna move now." But I guess for some people, it would still be like, "Well, that desire was there before, why can't you just bring that back?"
Yeah, especially because with my personal experience, it was me going to Korea to teach English for a year, but in the hypothetical situation that I mentioned, it was the person moving with a previous partner. So I
Yeah,
think that's what makes it a little more tricky. Let's say that was your first love
yeah.
and it was gonna be this wild, incredible, passionate, adventurous experience. They could get jealous.
Yeah,
Okay, now you're so boring. You don't ever want to do anything. Why did that guy get that part of you and I'm getting this boring part of you? That's where I think it could be a little sticky and why a person may not want to share that information.
yeah. I mean, I guess, I think I still would side with, like, just explaining why it's different, but 1, this is hypothetical, so it doesn't matter. But I think, I mean, where you're at, it makes sense too. In my mind, both make sense. It's just a matter of what you think what the outcome would be. But
And it just boils down to security,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
what we've been saying with all of these questions.
yeah,
If you don't have a solid foundation, you're going to have so many issues.
yeah, just in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So work on that.
Yeah, work on that first, yes. We hit on this a little bit earlier, but do you think flirting with others is harmless, or do you consider that emotional cheating?
What are we talking about?
Yeah,
Are
that's
we
the big
are
question.
you flirting all the time?
Mhm.
Are you doing it in front of my face, going real deep with it?
Yeah,
And also, is it flirting or is it friendly?
right.
I'm thinking specifically of dealing with people in the service industry.
Mhm.
Your valet person, your waitress,
Mhm.
the person who's greeting you. I'm a very friendly person. I want to make sure that everybody's treated with respect. I do
Mm.
appreciate all of these services that are happening. But yeah, am I going out of my way to do certain things as if I'm a single person? If that's what's happening, then I think that's very problematic. Same
Yeah.
thing for you if that's what I was witnessing. Like,
Mhm.
okay, wow, you're kind of going the extra mile with this waitress.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's important to also not be on the other end of the spectrum where you're just completely rude
Yeah.
and inconsiderate.
Yeah, no, I think it definitely depends on, 1, what you consider flirting, and then 2, what you're actually doing in said flirting, right? Because you're a very friendly person, and I know you, I know your heart, but if someone didn't know you very well, they could maybe interpret some of your friendliness as flirting, but I know that's not what you're doing, you're just really nice and really friendly with people. So, I know you're not flirting, but some people would say like, "Hey, you're being really flirty, why is she?" It's like, "No, she's not." But again, it comes back to that foundation of security and trust and all that stuff and really knowing your partner. But yeah, I think knowing your partner's heart and knowing if what they're doing is actually flirting is the big key in this. But I do know some people, they do get extra flirty with the waitress, with the waiter, with the bellhop, with the person at the front desk, with the cashier. Like they really are just kind of flirty and just like joking with them and being like, and so I think that can be problematic because if you are doing that with strangers, it makes you wonder, like, are you doing that with the people that you work with and you're seeing them every day? So how far does that end up going? Right. And it could just be, oh, I'm just really friendly. But it's like, no, you're being flirty. And some people really are kind of aloof to that part of themselves that they really are flirty, but they aren't intending to be. But people are receiving it that way. And so if you are sending flirty messages, flirty signals to someone else, they're going to interpret that as flirting and they will start to give that back. And that could just potentially end up going some places that aren't great.
Yeah, to the person who is very friendly and unaware of possibly when they're crossing the line, I would say, would you be okay if your partner behaved in the way that you behave to other people?
Hmm.
Most of the time, it's probably going to be a no.
Yeah.
So I think that would be an important moment to reflect on and hopefully allow the person to start to dial it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're around people all the time. We are going to have to interact
Hmm.
with all kinds of service people and coworkers and just random strangers
Yeah.
that you're around at a mall, people that you're on an airplane with. So evaluating, okay, who am I? What's important to me? And I think maybe if you're in a heterosexual relationship, as a man, just kind of focus on talking to other men.
Right.
As a woman, just focus on talking to other women. And if you're in a queer relationship, maybe focus on talking to people that you're not attracted to.
Right. Yeah, but again, like everything else, it all boils down to trust and that foundation that you have with your partner. So this next one is a really common phrase that we hear a lot that we've actually touched on in a previous episode, the one where we talked about all the relationship myths. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to that. We'll get into a little bit more. But this phrase, happy wife, happy life, in general, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's helpful for marriages? Do you think it's harmful for marriages? General thoughts on that.
I've never liked that
Hmm.
because it just focuses on the wife.
Right.
I once heard it should not be happy wife, happy life. It should be happy spouse, happy house
Hmm.
because both people are considered. Both people have a seat at the table. Both people's needs are met. And it can create more of a stronger bond. I think when it is happy wife, happy life, I think it can be damaging because a guy can think, I don't have any needs. They're never going to be met. Therefore, they don't matter. And it can just spiral into something that's really damaging.
Yeah, I mean, ditto on all of that. I completely agree with you on all of that. I think some people it can work, but in general, I think it does more harm than good.
Yeah, because if Queen Amber walks into the room and I'm irritable, you and then if you have kids, can possibly be walking on eggshells, and
Hmm.
that sucks. That's not an environment I want to
Yeah.
create. Yeah, there are times I am irritable, but you know what? I need to sort that out myself.
Right.
I need to not project onto you guys. And on the flip side, sometimes you could be the one kind of going through it because we're both human. We are not robots.
Hmm.
And we go through life. So I think everybody, even the kids, everybody's needs matter. We all need to be considerate of one another.
Right.
I think it's important for us to have emotional regulation and communicate when we're going through stuff. But yeah, everybody's needs matter. It is not all about me because I'm not the only one in this household.
Right. Boom. Period. Mic drop. All right, we have a couple more, but this one could be tricky. Do you think a relationship can survive differences in political views or religious views? And I can start with that. I think, especially in today's climate, things have become so polarized that someone being Republican or conservative and someone being liberal or Democrat can be really challenging just because they are so polar opposite in today's climate, at least in the US. So I honestly don't know if I can see that working out long term if that's a dominant thing. Religious views, again, it depends on how important that is for you. I think some people that is the thing that they live on, that's what dictates their decision making. That's what they look to guide their entire life. So if that's you, I would say having someone in with a shared belief would probably be most beneficial. But if for you it's not as entwined in who you are and ingrained in who you are as a person and how you make decisions, yeah, it's okay to have different religious views, but I just think it kind of depends on how deep really both of those things run for you.
I think it's important to sit down with your partner
Mhm.
and really figure out what it means to be this political party,
Right.
what it means to call yourself this religious label. Sometimes society can tell us what this thing looks like, but then the person sitting across from you can tell you something completely different.
Mhm.
So I remember in grad school, we were taught let the person be the expert of their own story.
Right.
Is a part of ethnographic interviewing. You may have all these assumptions about a thing and just be completely wrong. So if the person's like, yeah, I'm a Catholic and this is what Catholicism means to me,
Mhm.
this is how it informs my worldview. Wow, okay, cool. that's not in alignment with me. Or, oh, okay, cool, that is in alignment with me. So many times we realize we have so much more in common
Yeah.
than we could have ever imagined. But you won't know until you take the time to learn about the person that you're with. I would say do it sooner rather than later.
Yes, 100%.
These do tend to be divisive topics, taboo topics that people
Mhm.
put off. We're taught, do not talk about money, do not talk about religion in social circles. But no, especially when you're trying to date someone before you guys get really serious, talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up because you're right. I think a lot of people see the label and they make all these assumptions about that label. But when you get into the nitty-gritty of what that label means for you as a person, it may completely blow the assumptions out of the water. So, for example, for us, when we were on the dating apps, we had liberal as far as political affiliation. And so some people could read that and make a generalized assumption of what they think that meant. And we could have done that too. But what we did is, okay, well, that part aligns. So let's dig deeper and see what that means for you and what that means for me. Because for some people, being liberal is synonymous with being someone who hates men and who is all about going and protesting on the weekends. And so it can be a lot of things for a lot of people. But for us, we looked at what it meant for us and it aligned. So I think it just takes a little bit more digging than just seeing the label with anything. This is an interesting question, and I feel like it's a lot more common than what I even knew it to be. But do you think couples should share the same bed, or do you think it's okay for them to sleep separately?
You have to evaluate who you are and what works for you
Hmm.
and who you're with and what
Yeah.
works for them. I know there's something really popular called the Scandinavian method
Hmm.
where it's not only popular but life-changing for couples. So you share the same bed, but you have two separate sleeping situations, so two duvets. Maybe one person likes something that's thicker, another person likes just a sheet.
Hmm.
You're not fighting over the blanket or the sheet throughout the night because you have your own separate thing going on.
And one of you isn't like sweating, and one of you isn't freezing. Yeah.
Yes, so I think that works. Other people love sleeping in separate rooms, and that
Hmm.
has nothing to do with the status of their relationship,
Right.
which oftentimes people would think you've got issues. Maybe, let's say somebody snores. I know that's a
Hmm.
big deal. Even if you have a CPAP, it's still a very noisy situation.
Yeah.
Another person wakes up really easily. Maybe that's the best for you. Maybe you've got a baby
Hmm.
who's crying and the other person has a very stressful job to where they need lots of sleep. Maybe that's an arrangement that works for them for that specific season.
Hmm.
Maybe it's another situation where two people have two completely different work schedules.
Hmm.
One person works during the day, another person works overnight. So again, it just really boils down to what is the actual situation in your house
Yeah.
that works. For us, we share the same room, bed, and sleeping arrangement.
Yeah.
But yeah, if and when things change in the future, we'll reevaluate.
Yeah, and I think also it helps that we're both physical touch people, so we love just, like, being connected physically when we are sleeping. I think it would be really difficult to sleep in separate beds because we just love to be touching each other. But like you said, if things change down the road when we need to be separated for whatever reason, any of those reasons that you just mentioned, yeah, I think we would be okay with that. And I know for me, like I was one of those people who thought if people are sleeping in separate beds, then they must have issues in their marriage. But as I've learned about the Scandinavian method and other methods like that, where people have different rooms, I've seen like, "Oh, this is a lot more common than I even knew." And it made sense when I heard the rationale behind it because it was those things that you were talking about with snoring or different schedules and all of that. And, if they wanna have sex, they'll do that in one of the people's rooms and then go their separate ways and sleep in the rooms again. So, it can work for some people. So, I don't think it's this inherently bad thing. It can indicate some issues if you're getting away from your partner just because you can't stand them, right? But if there's a logical rationale for why you're doing it, I think it's totally okay. But it's worth a conversation for you and your partner. Obviously, you're not just gonna say, "I'm gonna go do this because you're too much." Have that conversation because they can interpret that a bunch of different ways.
I know Raven Simone and her wife Miranda do that.
Oh, yeah.
They love it. They have what appears to be a healthy marriage
Mhm.
and encourage other people to possibly look into it.
Yeah.
And yeah, for them, they are experiencing the sexual intimacy, so that's not an issue. They literally go there to sleep.
Mhm.
They're not separated in the evening
Mhm.
because they hate each other. It's like, no, they're spending time with one another, making sure that they're experiencing that intimacy. And then when it is time to go to bed, I just say goodnight to you and retreat to my
Yeah.
own quarters.
Yeah. Yeah, and for some people that and again, that does take that foundation of trust and all of that too, because if you don't trust that the person is being honest, then you could assume that they're just wanting to get away from you and all of that, and that could be an issue.
Or going into their room and then texting or
Oh, yeah.
calling their side piece.
Yeah.
And that could be a whole other thing because that would be a conducive environment
Mhm, it would be.
to be able to do that. So, again, this is for couples who are solid. And if you feel inclined to retreat, that's a moment for you to evaluate and to confront the partner, have a conversation. Hey, I'm feeling isolated. I'm feeling invalidated. I'm feeling dismissed.
Mhm.
I want to work on this because I'm compelled to want to run away from you, but I know that that's not the healthiest thing for us.
Yeah.
How can we work on that?
Yes, 100%. And then the last question, this is something that I've been seeing more common in these last years is do you think marriage is still relevant in 2025 or do you think it is just an outdated contract? I can answer that one. I do think it's still relevant. I do think it changes the dynamic of a relationship. Yes, on the at the end of the day it is a contract, but it does carry so much more meaning for different people, right? For different people who have different religious beliefs or non-religious beliefs, it can mean so many different things for different people. For some people, it can just mean that you are 100% committed now because if you're dating, then there's always an out, right? That you can just break up and go live somewhere else. Where if you're married, it requires a lot more to break up. So I think it does carry that weight still for a lot of people. But for some people, they're choosing not to get married, and that's okay too, right? Some people can choose to just date their whole life, date for 20, 30 years, and, they're totally happy. So I don't think it's necessary for everyone, but I also don't think that it's irrelevant.
Yeah, I agree. I know people who have dated for an extended amount of time and have a very solid, healthy relationship.
Mhm,
They have their reasons for not wanting to get married, and it's not a bad thing.
mhm.
I will say too, I have heard of people that don't wanna do it because their parents or the people around them don't have successful marriages.
Right.
Why would I wanna go ahead and do that
Mhm.
when everybody around me who has done that is miserable?
Right.
So, yeah, there are some people who are like, "You know what? I wanna live with someone." That is the ultimate level of commitment.
Mhm.
For other people, it's just continuing to show up,
Right.
to go on dates, to evolve together, living separately. So, yeah, if you do not subscribe to that, if that's not really something that you wanna do that resonates with you, then don't do it. But don't be forced into something that you can't fully buy into,
Mhm.
because that's not most likely, that's just not gonna work out in the long run. So it's about evaluating within self, "What do I want? What works for me?" And then asking your partner, see if you guys are in alignment. Because there could be one partner who's
Mhm.
super down to get married and the other partner who isn't. That could be a deal breaker or not. So once again, there's just a lot of layers with this one,
Yeah.
and you have to do what works for you.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's definitely worth the conversation, especially at the beginning of a relationship. Like, what is your relationship to marriage? Do you see yourself getting married in the future? Because some people they're like, absolutely not, for the reasons that you already explained. And for some people, it's like, I definitely do want to get married. And so if you guys are both solidly in your camps, and don't start that relationship because it's not going to end well. Because typically, if you're pretty solid in those camps, it's not going to change. So if you're already there, recognize that your partner is not there and choose to part ways, or just don't even pursue that relationship in the first place.
And I think it can be tricky too because let's say you're in a relationship where you don't want to get married, you guys are good and solid. Well, the government,
Right.
unfortunately, does not see things that way. There are
Mhm.
so many benefits. We've talked about this before. There are so many benefits for people that are married.
Yeah.
whether that's medical benefits or benefits with getting a home,
Mhm.
tax benefits. So sometimes you can just be cool with your own belief, but be forced into marriage because you do want to benefit from some of these things that could be life changing.
Yeah, 100%. As we said at the beginning, this is the last episode for this season. We will be back with season 2, and we will let you guys know on social media when that will be, so stay tuned for that.
Thank you guys so much for listening, watching, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio. We truly appreciate it. Please be sure to go back and watch some of the episodes that you haven't checked out. If anything resonated with someone that is in your life, please share this.
Mhm.
We're trying to get our little podcast out there to as many people as possible. But yeah, this first season has been absolutely incredible. It far exceeded our expectations. So for season 2, we are going to do more of the same, but we also are going to jazz it up a little bit, such as having guests. So please be sure to follow us on social media. Our handle on Instagram is The Married Therapist. Thank you guys so much, and we will see you in season 2.
Later.